Good evening, dear friends. As the day gives way to the calm embrace of night, it's time to leave behind the stresses and worries of the day. Tonight, I invite you to relax, unwind, and let your mind drift as we embark on a journey together. This is the story of a quiet hero, a man who, in the stillness of the night, found himself faced with a choice that would change lives forever. So, get comfortable, close your eyes if you wish, and let this soothing tale guide you gently toward rest. Jack Thornton had always been an ordinary man, at least in his own eyes. At 42, he lived a life of quiet routine in the suburbs of Maplewood, a picturesque town where the trees lining the streets seemed to whisper secrets of simpler times. Jack worked as an accountant at a local firm, a job that suited his methodical nature and attention to detail. Every morning, he'd kiss his wife, Sarah, goodbye, drop off their daughter, Emma, at school, and drive to work in his reliable sedan, the same one he'd had for the past decade. But it was the evenings that Jack treasured most. After dinner, when the dishes were done and Emma was engrossed in her homework, Jack would slip out for his nightly walk. It was a tradition he'd started years ago, a way to clear his mind and find a moment of peace in the hustle and bustle of daily life. The neighborhood knew Jack well. Mrs. Henderson, the retired teacher who lived 3 doors down, would often wave from her porch as he passed. Sometimes, old Mr. Johnson would be out tending to his prized roses, always eager to share the latest neighborhood gossip. Jack would listen politely, offering a smile and a nod. But he cherished the solitude of these walks more than anything. On this particular night, as Jack stepped out into the cool evening air, something felt different. The sky was a deeper shade of indigo, the stars seemingly brighter than usual. A gentle breeze carried the scent of blooming jasmine from the Patel's garden next door. Jack took a deep breath, savoring the familiar scents and sounds of his neighborhood. As he began his usual route, Jack's mind wandered to the events of the day. It had been a particularly challenging one at work, with a difficult client and a looming deadline. He could feel the tension in his shoulders, the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. But with each step, each breath of the crisp night air, he felt that tension begin to ease. Jack's route took him past the local elementary school, where Emma spent her days learning and growing. He smiled, remembering her excitement earlier that evening as she showed him her latest art project, a colorful family portrait that now adorned their refrigerator. The school playground was quiet now, the swings gently swaying in the breeze, a stark contrast to the joyful chaos of daytime. As he rounded the corner near Oakwood Park, Jack's peaceful reverie was abruptly shattered. In the distance, near the old oak tree that had stood sentinel over the park for generations, he saw two figures. One, much smaller, was clearly a child, no older than 8 or 9. The other, a man, tall and shadowy, seemed to loom over the child in a way that sent a chill down Jack's spine. Jack felt his heart begin to race, the peacefulness of his walk evaporating in an instant. He had walked this route hundreds of times, and never had he encountered anything like this. The park was usually empty at this hour. The families and dog walkers long since returned to the comfort of their homes. As he drew closer, Jack could see the child more clearly. A young girl with long dark hair, wearing a blue backpack that seemed too large for her small frame. Her body language screamed discomfort and fear. Her shoulders hunched and her arms wrapped tightly around herself. The man, on the other hand, was leaning in, speaking in a low voice that Jack couldn't quite hear, but could sense was wrong, very wrong. Jack felt a surge of protective instinct, a feeling he recognized from when Emma was younger, and he'd watch her take her first tentative steps or approach a group of unfamiliar children at the playground. But this was different. This wasn't the normal anxiety of a parent. This was a primal urge to protect, to intervene. For a moment, Jack hesitated. He was no hero, no trained professional equipped to handle dangerous situations. He was just Jack Thornton, an accountant who enjoyed quiet walks and spent his weekends tending to his vegetable garden. What could he possibly do? But as he watched the man reach out to grab the girl's arm, Jack knew he had to act. He thought of Emma, of how he would want someone to step in if she were ever in danger. With a deep breath, Jack steadied himself and began to approach the pair. "Hey there," Jack called out, his voice far steadier than he felt. The man's head snapped up, his eyes narrowing as he took in Jack's approach. The girl looked up too, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and hope. "Bit late for a chat, isn't it?" Jack continued, forcing a casual tone even as his heart pounded in his chest. He could see the man more clearly now, middle-aged, with a scruffy beard, and clothes that had seen better days. The man's hand, which had been reaching for the girl's arm, dropped to his side. "Just having a friendly conversation," he said, his voice smooth, but with an undercurrent of tension. "Nothing for you to worry about." Jack stepped closer, positioning himself between the man and the girl. He could smell alcohol on the man's breath, could see the slight sway in his stance. Well, it's getting pretty late, Jack said, his voice firm. I think it's time for everyone to head home, don't you? The man's eyes darted between Jack and the girl, clearly weighing his options. Jack could feel the tension in the air, thick and heavy, as if the night itself was holding its breath. He knew he was walking a fine line, that one wrong move could send the situation spiraling out of control. Listen, buddy, the man said, his voice taking on a harder edge. This doesn't concern you. Why don't you just keep walking? Jack felt a flicker of fear in his chest, but he stood his ground. He thought of Sarah and Emma at home, probably wondering where he was. He thought of this young girl, scared and alone. He couldn't walk away. He wouldn't. I think it does concern me, Jack replied, his voice low but firm. And I think it's time for you to leave. For a long moment, the man didn't move. His eyes, bloodshot and angry, locked with Jack's in a silent battle of wills. Jack could feel his muscles tensing, ready to spring into action if the man made a move. But then, slowly, the man's posture changed. His shoulders slumped, the fight seeming to drain out of him. Fine, the man muttered, his voice laced with bitter defeat. It's not worth the trouble. He gave the girl one last, lingering look before turning on his heel and walking away, disappearing into the shadows of the night. Jack waited until the man was out of sight before he let out the breath he had been holding. He turned to the girl, who was still standing there, frozen in place. Kneeling down to her level, Jack offered a reassuring smile. It's okay now, he said softly. You're safe. The girl's eyes welled up with tears, a mixture of relief and lingering fear washing over her face. Thank you, she whispered, her voice trembling. I didn't know what to do. He said he knew my mom and that she sent him to pick me up, but something felt wrong. You did the right thing by not going with him, Jack assured her, his heart aching for what this child had just been through. What's your name? And where do you live? Let's get you home. I'm Lily, the girl replied, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. I live on Maple Street. I was at my friend's house for a play date, but I stayed too late. I thought I could walk home by myself, but then... Jack nodded, understanding dawning. It's okay, Lily. You're safe now. Let's get you home to your parents. They must be worried sick. As they walked through the quiet streets, Jack kept a watchful eye out, making sure the man was truly gone. Lily walked close to him, her small hand clutching the edge of his jacket. As if afraid he might disappear, Jack felt a profound sense of responsibility, mixed with a lingering anger at the man who had tried to harm this child. "So, Lily," Jack said, trying to distract her from her fear, "tell me about your friend. What were you playing today?" Lily looked up at him, a small smile breaking through her tears. "We were playing with her new dollhouse. It's so big, with tiny furniture and everything. We made up stories about the doll family that lives there." As Lily chattered on about her play date, Jack felt the tension of the night start to ease. The familiar streets of the neighborhood took on a different quality now, no longer just the backdrop to his nightly walks, but a community, a place where neighbors looked out for each other. When they reached Lily's house, they found the front door open, Lily's parents standing on the porch with worried expressions. As soon as they saw Lily, they rushed forward, enveloping her in a tight embrace. "Lily! Oh, thank God!" her mother cried, holding her daughter close. "We were so worried. We were just about to call the police." Jack explained what had happened, watching as Lily's parents' expressions shifted from relief to horror to gratitude. Lily's father reached out to shake Jack's hand, his grip firm and grateful. "Thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "If you hadn't been there—" Jack nodded, understanding the unspoken weight of those words. "I'm just glad I could help," he said simply. "Please, make sure to report this to the police. They should know there's someone out there trying to lure children." After ensuring that Lily was safely with her parents and that they would indeed contact the authorities, Jack began his walk home. The night seemed different now, the shadows deeper, the silence more pronounced. He felt changed, as if the events of the evening had shifted something fundamental within him. As he approached his own house, Jack saw Sarah standing on the porch, her face etched with worry. "Jack," she called out as he walked up the path, "where have you been? I was getting worried." Jack wrapped his arms around his wife, holding her close and breathing in the familiar scent of her shampoo. "I'm okay," he assured her. "Something happened on my walk. Let's go inside, and I'll tell you everything." Over a cup of tea at the kitchen table, Jack recounted the events of the night to Sarah. Her eyes widened as he described the encounter in the park, her hand reaching out to grasp his as he spoke of confronting the man. "Oh, Jack," she breathed when he had finished. "That poor little girl. And you were so brave." Jack shook his head. "I was terrified," he admitted, "but I couldn't just walk away. All I could think about was, what if it had been Emma?" Sarah squeezed his hand. You did the right thing. You're a hero, Jack Thornton. Jack smiled, but shook his head again. I'm no hero. I just did what anyone would do. What I hope anyone would do for our Emma if she were ever in trouble. As they sat there in the quiet of their kitchen, the events of the night settling around them, Jack felt a profound sense of gratitude. Gratitude for his family, for his community, for the quiet life he led that had somehow prepared him for this moment of crisis. In the days that followed, Jack's act of bravery became known throughout the neighborhood. Lily's parents shared the story, and soon Jack found himself receiving grateful nods and words of thanks from neighbors he had never even spoken to before. The local police increased their patrols in the area, and a community watch program was established. Jack continued his nightly walks, but now he walked with a new sense of purpose. He was more aware of his surroundings, more attuned to the ebb and flow of life in his community, and sometimes, as he passed by Oakwood Park, he would see Lily playing with her friends, her laughter carrying on the breeze. She would wave to him, a bright smile on her face, and Jack would wave back, his heart full. Life went on in Maplewood, much as it always had. But for Jack Thornton, everything had changed. He had discovered a strength within himself he never knew he possessed, a capacity for courage that had lain dormant beneath the surface of his ordinary life. And in that discovery, he found a deeper appreciation for the quiet moments, the simple joys, and the profound responsibility we all share to look out for one another. As he walked beneath the starlit sky, Jack realized that heroes don't always wear capes or leap tall buildings. Sometimes they're just ordinary people who choose to do the right thing when it matters most. And in that choice, they become extraordinary. And so, our tale of a quiet, eerie hero in the night comes to an end. It's a reminder that within each of us lies the potential for greatness, the capacity to make a difference in the lives of others. As you drift off to sleep, may this story bring you comfort and inspiration, knowing that even in the darkest moments, there are those who stand ready to help, to protect, and to care. Sleep well, dear friends, and may your dreams be filled with the warmth of community and the strength of the human spirit. Until next time, good night.